My name is William Martinez. I am a lending assistant, customer service representative for Happy State Bank. The most I love is working with people, and I think that we as a bank, we do that. I think that's our culture. I think they go out and find those individuals that love to interact with individuals and love the conversation and love working and helping out and solving those problems that our customers can have. And I think that the culture, the helpfulness, I think that's what sets us apart.
Okay, let's go ahead and call this meeting to order. I'd like the city manager, if he would, to take us through the agenda items.
Good. To begin, let's see. We have somewhere in the room Fire Chief Steve Ross. Told y'all a week ago, Steve is going to be retiring.
She's not clapping because you're retired.
That's right. We're clapping because of the
We were chastised.
We're working strong for the last 5 days.
I'll spit my gum out. We were chastised. We never wrote.
Well, we're quite at 33 years. You don't think that's enough?
No.
Steve has been with us for 33 years. He's been the fire chief for 15. I know that all of y'all have seen firsthand just how phenomenal of a fire department Steve has built for us. In my travels around working with other city managers, listening to some of what goes on in other cities, and can say without hesitation that total confidence, not only in Steve but in the fire department he's built. Steve is leaving us. He's leaving us rather quickly. He and his wife will be moving to the Metroplex, and Steve will begin on November the 7th as the new fire chief of Halton City. There will be a reception this Friday, beginning at 2 p.m. at Central Fire Station. Steve will demonstrate to all of us how to climb up and down the fireman's pole backwards in the location where he once began his career for us. But, encourage not only y'all, but anybody from the public. And there's a release going out today that has all of that in it. But
where is it again? I'm sorry.
Central Fire,
Okay.
400 South Bend here.
This Friday?
This Friday.
Oh, okay. Here.
Friday at noon.
No. There's a deal on it.
You should have an invitation at your place.
It's from 2 to 4.
Just can't speak highly enough, not only of Steve, but of the department. What he's built with us, and thought he could come today and either dance for us or sing or explain himself or whatever we would like.
Will we have the opportunity to publicly acknowledge Steve in our 3 o'clock meeting?
We can, yes.
Can we do that, Mr. Mayor?
Absolutely.
Your Eminence?
Well, we were at TML, as you know, and we were talking to different folks and met some people from Watauga, and we told them they were getting a fire chief in their neighboring community that was top notch and everything. They were very interested in doing that since they're just a really tiny little town and they are depend on Halton City. So we bragged about you.
Well, appreciate that. Thank you.
I don't know where Halton City or Watauga are.
My college roommate was from Halton. It's right in It's in Fort Worth.
Yeah, and it was
Surrounded.
We won't hold that against you.
Well,
At A&M.
So you started here under John Stiff.
started under John Stiff.
At OU, I meant.
Progressed.
John Ward, Mr. Ward hired me as fire chief, and then worked for Alan and Jared, and worked with a lot of really great people.
So you see Jarrett Randy Mall?
Well, I'm going to reserve my remarks about the Chief Ross when we get out in the public meeting, because there's some things that I don't think everybody knows that he's done and how he's really done.
I don't have recall. Visiting with the police chief this morning, if that means anything.
Don't listen to either one of them. I don't have recall. I appreciate that. Matt and Nikki, well, I've got a 2010 F-150, and it's got 45,000 miles on it, so that kind of tells the tale. My kids live in Fort Worth. And, I asked Deanna if we're going to Fort Worth, so that's where her kids are, and I had this opportunity come up, and it's one of those things that I thought we had everything planned out in our life. You know me, I'm the planner and the administrator, and then God said, no, you're not going there, you're going here. So we're going to go down there and we'll see
Better
what's in
listen.
store. Yeah.
Are you gonna live in Fort Worth?
No, actually, I guess to be determined.
Okay.
So,
Now, your son works for which fire department?
he's Arlington Firefighter.
Arlington, okay.
Yeah, I gets to work the World Series Saturday.
Wow.
Does he?
Cool.
Well, he's on the hazmat team, so he'll probably be out in the parking lot. At least he gets to hear the World Series.
Now, they've got a big fire department underneath the new state Cowboy Stadium, don't they?
Yes, sir.
Huge emergency center over there.
Yeah.
So, and Nikki's going to UNT.
Oh, really?
Yeah, she's a grad student.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we're excited about that part of our life. It's I was just talking to Kelly. It's a little bit like Groundhog Day. You get an opportunity. You learn a little bit about what not to do. I don't think you ever have all the answers. I certainly don't. But I think you at least know what didn't work in the past on a few occasions. So
Well, in Haltom City, the population is around 49,000. And that's about how big Amarillo was when you started, wasn't it?
yeah, I think I still remember how to feed the horses.
Pull it right up to the hydrant and pull it with a horse.
Yeah.
Trailer.
You can move those things up and down so you can pump it.
I think that the progression of if I was going to make a move, it's probably practical now to do it, and I think that we have so many talented people in the city of Amarillo and on the fire department that my experience has been we always miss the experience when it leaves, but we seem to always get better. And I think if we didn't do that, we didn't do our job. So I think they'll continue to improve just because of the quality of the people in the park. So thank you for recognizing me and being patient with me and providing us all the tools we've ever needed. So thanks for your support.
Thanks for all you've done for our city. Community is going to be less without you.
Okay, next item at your place is the sales tax report. Drum roll, please. In all of our absence last week, somehow Mr. Frigo got these numbers up 12.38% above even what they were a year ago, which, if you'll recall, was up from what it was even the prior year. So we are beginning the year. We are beginning the year very good, and in fact, we're above the budget that you approved. It's now all of 18 days old. Dean has cautioned me not to say 1 month is a trend, but man, I like it.
This is 1 month following how many? 9?
Oh, no,
Oh,
now 17 or 18?
It's been every month.
Wow, so we know that's
Up every
In a
month.
row.
Oh, yeah, we had a down month.
July of 10 is when it started.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, those were little.
So
That's
that's
still being good.
So that's,
Money, Dean?
Pardon?
Can we spend the money?
Well, let's not call it a trend just yet.
Oh, look at it.
Never gonna
He's
say it.
hedging.
When the money's in the coffers a year and a half, you might.
That's why we have.
That's right.
Not wanting to cast anything but positive on this, wouldn't we, we had a difficult school year in agriculture.
yes.
Wouldn't we expect to see that manifest in these numbers?
Yeah, a lot of your agricultural spending is tax exempt. Is part of what you're seeing. You may see right now a positive influence that won't hold, and that being that, especially the cattle industry, a lot of those herds have either been thinned or have been dispersed, which puts significant revenue, into those operations now. But a year from now, they might not have the product, in this case, the animals.
And I was thinking after Christmas, what we see in January and February, because it's still, their DVRs that they're buying or not buying are so fast.
What those are.
So let's
What's it
see.
do?
General revenue, general retail
General
stuff.
stuff.
We had a term for it described at TMU, but I probably shouldn't say that term in here. About people buying
Crap.
Speaker.
I'm not ready to go to one of those again, but I'll get you earlier.
Imagine somebody talking like
Oh,
that.
he was good.
We've got to get
the DVD. Yeah, we've got to get him down here, period.
But there is some
Yeah, I was
concern
thinking the same
about.
thing. And how the drought lasts.
Well, and the concern, I've talked to people from Dalhart and those areas, and they said they came out decent because of crop insurance. But I don't know how that's affected the next year. Not good, not good. That they weren't devastated, with crop insurance.
But cattle were selling off so early that
They didn't really.
There were, and they sold relatively, early in the year they were selling high. As they went through the summer, the prices began to come down. A lot of the crops will not have produced maybe something in the 80 to 85% of normal range. Commodity prices are very high, and input prices are very low. So the spreads, at least,
What do you mean?
primarily fuels to run your irrigation, be that electricity or natural gas.
did you say that was low or high?
It's low.
Yeah.
Especially in comparison
For the
to
last
the
year.
previous year.
Because they haven't operated.
As oil prices stay down, a lot of the cost of fertilizers stay down. And of course, just the on-farm fuel for the tractors, the diesel, tends to stay down.
So it really isn't the year two with
Probably.
the problem that agriculture they're beginning to see.
So if they don't get any
But Dean
rain
is
to
probably-
plant, they're not going to have crops.
Dean is probably being correct, cautious.
Yeah, I'm still optimistic, but cautiously optimistic.
So you're optimistic you can stay within the trend you projected when we did the budget?
We're going to hit budget. I feel pretty confident.
And remember, budget is practically flat.
Right.
We had a 1.5% bump is all we put in the budget for sales tax. So we did not get aggressive, expecting that maybe. Reports right now are that they are planting their winter wheat. Don't know that it'll come up or that it won't, but they are
It's
planting.
just the dryland boys or the irrigated boys?
Right now, the irrigated boys.
Oh,
I
well.
haven't had
And
any
they
reports.
pre-water and go through all that expense? Okay, good.
Of course, around here, a lot of wheat ends up getting baled out, raised out. Harvest just a whole lot of it.
Passion, yeah.
So at the moment, that economy is probably better than we might have expected based on the summer, but you'll really begin to see it when you get to the harvest times, which, for wheat would be very late spring and following on into the corn harvest probably in September or so. Okay, moving right along. Item just of interest, Lieutenant Governor's interim charges came out this morning, and there was a note on it that I thought was pretty telling for what we've been through. From October 2010 to September 2011, of course, we know that's driest year on record, not only for us but for the state. In Texas, there have been more than 24,000 fires in that period. Those fires burned over 3.8 million acres. 3.8 million acres. And there have been more than 7,000 homes or businesses burned during that same period of time. So as you might expect, that's going to lead to some of the interim charges and some of the things that we'll be watching. Of course, water resources, water conservation, methods to enhance water. I'm not real sure how they enhance water, but that's going to be fun.
Add Jack Daniels to it.
I'll be sure to go to that meeting. Also, kind of in light with what you saw in the paper today with Kevin Starbuck's requested testimony down in Austin, the state is now going to look into state, local, and federal emergency preparation and response, and again to encourage collaborative communication, which you probably hear us talk about interoperable communications, and that's what that means, just everybody that comes to help can talk to each other in some common channels. Also interesting that certainly not at the state level, at the federal level, they've been somewhat slow over the years in dealing with forests, trying to manage the forests to mitigate fire. The state's going to come up with the best practices for urban forest management and fuel reduction, which is very important. The little bit of rain we've had that came in kind of late this year, we will have a lot of fuels next spring. And still no indication that it will be anything other than dry.
So what they're saying is the budget cuts they've made in previous years to Parks and Recreation and Forest Services and all that, where they couldn't do what they were supposed to be doing, now they're wanting to do it.
A little bit, yes. I think at the state level, it's more of trying to get maybe more comprehensive handle on how they're going to manage that. A lot of that goes through the Texas Forest Service, and They've not had all the funding in the world, just as none of the agencies have.
But it sounded when they came here to that hearing that they're really trying to coordinate that with the Forest Service, the U.S. Forest Service. Make sure there's resources and there's ability.
Well, in our case, certainly in two of the fires, probably more than others, the big Powder Canyon fire, and what we call the Stone Ridge fire, the one that burned up Tascosa Road up, got the one house in West Cliff, and several in Tascasita. Without the U.S. Forest Service assets that were already here because of the Powder Canyon fire, that could have been as bad as it was, and it could have gone much worse.
Or 10-degree shift in wind could have pushed it to the Mormon church, and that high structure could have, don't you think that could have taken out that whole west cliff?
You know, when the winds get over, this is not scientific, this is experience. When the winds get over 30 miles an hour, even in the grasses that are this tall, we lose the ability to put it out. So then we become more defensive, and I know that's probably not what everybody wants to hear, but that's where you go up and you start trying to protect, and you just steer it around residential areas. And those are the assets that Mr. Atkins is talking about with the air assets and the airdrop. And we were able to cut enough fire breaks to steer it around the residential areas to where you can catch it at a dependable area and put it out. So, we'd like to sit here and say, yeah, we will go put it out, but whenever we have the 40, 50, 60, 70 mile an hour winds, the only way to really protect your property is get dependable spaces and really good housekeeping around people's homes. And if they don't do that, it makes it very difficult to save property.
Should we consider a program like on conserving water? Should we consider a program to get people to cut their weeds, to prepare for next spring?
We're working on that. Actually, one of the things that Steve's trying to be sure he has on deck for us is, and we did this after the 2006 fire, where we actually plowed some fire breaks in certain places around the city. We encouraged some landowners with the assistance of the counties to get in and do certain things. There is a program that's available to us to help the public ed, and in fact, that's something George had brought up. When, George, back in June, when we were talking about that? Firewise?
The Firewise thing out of Los Alamos, because they had to deal with Los Federal Grande fire.
Yeah, but as Steve said, for a lot of these homes that are on the perimeter of the city or that are in a more rural style neighborhood, how those properties are maintained and kept has a whole lot to do with whether we can get in there and stop it or not. And if you had toured any of the big fires after the February 27th events, you can pretty much see it. I mean, it becomes very starkly obvious. So, yes, we will work on that. Yes, we'll get back with the counties. We really need their help because so much of it is right across the line. Tascasita, a beautiful neighborhood. But one of the key features of that neighborhood is the density of the trees. Of course, the density of the trees and the fires on the top makes it that much harder to address.
Could we ask TxDOT to help mow down along their responsibilities? Because, I mean, there were weeds and plants are way tall and dry. And
it's an ongoing challenge with TxDOT is the maintenance of the right-of-way. We'll probably save that shot until we get close to the fire season and then
see what it looks like.
See what we can get. But there are fires that are jumping huge rights of way that have hard surface and fire break and everything on them.
It started on the west side of Sonsi and jumped immediately across that wide expanse.
Whit Colt's house had all those beautiful trees in the back, watermelon trees. Turned out to kill his house.
Well, I think it's good for us to look forward and see what we can do to mitigate losses in the future.
Absolutely.
Well, these fires go about a football field every 2 minutes. And everything blows in front of it burning. Unfortunately, everything that's in there, tumbleweeds, cow chips, they fly 100 yards in front of it. what we try to do is find defendable spaces because our firefighters are fuel too. So the hard part in that is you can't see anything. So, obviously everybody's saying, well, where's the fire and how bad? And it takes a little while to get your arms around really where the fire's at and how bad. And then you're trying to identify exposed populations and remove them, which is where we need law enforcement. So what we try to do, as Mr. Atkinson said, is we're working with our GIS experts, and we're going to build maps of defendable spaces to where we can broaden those defendable spaces, being somewhere where we can run the fire into it and then jump on the fire safely there, because we can't get right in front of it, it'll burn us up. So we can bring up a map to where if we can find the fire, we can help our incident commanders in the field with defendable space, and that's where we can bring in the asset. We're going to do things a little bit differently. I guess fortunately or unfortunately, depending on your perspective, you learn as you go through these things of what works and what doesn't work. Because, obviously, till you fight these things, it's a different animal here than what they had at Bastrop. That's a forest fire. And we have wildfires. And these fires are fast. And their fires are much slower. They'll actually...
We've got more to burn in our fires.
They'll die down at night. They call them putting it to bed, and then they'll go to sleep, and then everybody come fight the fire. And around here, if you go to bed, it'll be in Oklahoma. So it's a little bit of a different animal, but I think that a proactive approach is very, very smart, and I think that we have the FireWise on our webpage, and we actually have the PSAs that we made after that are already there. So the best thing we actually can do is probably educate the public to do housekeeping around their property, because the fire will burn around their property and keep going. We can't put it out until it hits a defendable space large enough that we can slow it down enough that we can put it out. A major roadway.
Remember when we said we were stopping at Tesco's?
Yeah, there's a whole lot of those.
Yeah.
Disregard that. But that's really the way. These are really more defensive than offensive operations. So typically we're very aggressive on offense and we go in and put the fire out. These are much more defensive in the fact that we're just trying to remove people out of harm's way.
Including your own crews.
And try to organize the maintainers to remove fuel. We're going to bring a while in an urban interface specialist in and have them go around with us and look at the urban interface areas of the community and help us with defendable spaces. They do a lot of burns in lots of parts of the country, but it didn't work in Los Alamos very well, and there's a few others. So our people are really not trained to that sort of thing. But as Mr. Atkinson said, I think that we can work with landowners and mow stuff down and make it as defendable as practical. But, unfortunately, I'd like to don't kill the messenger, but the fuels are not as big this year, this coming year as they probably were last year. But they absolutely have zero moisture in them, and usually it takes March, April, or May before the fuels dry, and they're dead. So even on a 30-40 humidity's 30 or 40%, which is typically a day we don't worry about, you get a fire started, and so it's really a wind-driven event. So yeah, I'm kind of Johnny Raincloud here, but it's not a good picture, and we probably had better be very proactive in educating the public and providing these defendable spaces in our urban interface areas and making sure everything in the city's mowed down. So yeah, Terry McKinney and Scott are getting together, and we work with the counties, and we'll do our very best to prepare for what I think will be a pretty devastating wildfire season. But
And that's starting now.
it never really stopped. Unfortunately,
It takes one to get it all.
so.
One last item, and then we'll jump on the agenda. Pass out some maps here. City Commission this year really took some very aggressive steps to help us get back closer to the schedule we think we need to be on as it regards your streets and your street maintenance. Of course, our commitment to you is to get it done. We bring that all forth just as quickly as we can. The map here, the red colors are actually your major streets, your state highways, so that's kind of a little confusing. The segments that are highlighted in green are those that are proposed for seal coating this year. That's a little more than twice.
Seal coating or overlay?
I'm sorry, overlay. These are arterials, these are overlays. A little more than twice what we would normally be able to get done. So quite a few segments that you see there.
Here, let me ask you a question. I was out on Washington about a month ago,
Okay.
going south from Kenua,
Okay.
and that was not overlaid. It was seal coated
That was not us.
on Washington.
That was the state highway department. I went down that road about 20 minutes afterwards.
I did
just
too.
about destroyed my,
I don't know why I was thinking that one was our responsibility.
they had a contractor.
North of I-27 it is.
It was
North of I-27.
Right.
Okay.
But it was a contractor too.
It was terrible.
It was horrible.
Well, they actually seal coated the east loop. I had never seen that done before.
And was that intentional? Or was that the contractor going from?
I think that, and I shouldn't speak for them, my presumption would be that TxDOT's trying to stretch their maintenance dollars.
That's right. Well, it's also, that was the on-ramps too, right?
They did the on-ramps
All
and
the
the
on-ramps.
frontals, and they've done that before. They've done that before. But they did that south segment of Washington where it's technically Farm to Market Road.
Okay.
They did east loop starting at I-40 running north to either the 60 or the 24th. I don't remember where they stopped it, but that was what we do on Residential Street. They did on
And our part of Washington, our responsibility is what?
north of I-27.
It's a highway south. Well, it's a highway.
Farm to Market.
Right in front of the college.
Yeah. In front of the college is the city responsibility.
Wow.
Yeah.
But they fund it, don't they? Because it's a highway, designated highway.
I don't think they fund that part out there.
What are the yellow compared to the green? What's the?
Okay, those yellows are reconstructions. Of course, the bulk of that reconstruction effort will be Hillside / 58th Street.
You are going to do it down to, where does it go to Georgia?
It's from Bell back to Georgia. That takes probably the worst of that segment. The segment between Georgia and Washington is still pretty bad. We'll probably pick it up next year. If you go over to 34th between Coulter and Soncy, you see that line's an interrupted line.
Why is that?
Because we're not going to be able to afford to do the whole thing. But there where you have those expansion cracks, we're going to come in and try to smooth them out and see if we can buy 3 or 4 years to where we can then next come in and get them done.
Jared, that deal on Hillside is the same problem we had from Bell to Coulter. It's a base that.
It's the same problem we had on Coulter from 34th to 45th.
Initial
From
construction.
45th from Bell to Coulter. Yeah, it's just that the base material over time proved to be too rigid.
Is that what it was?
It breaks at the bottom, and then you get your normal freeze and thaw, and it starts pulling it apart.
Do we think those streets are the only ones that are going to have that failure early in their life? Are there more that we have to deal with full replacements because of that?
I'm not aware that there's more other than we need to finish out 58.
Right.
It has a similar problem, and when we get to full funding, we need to come back on 34th from Coulter to Soncy and do the whole thing. This will actually be strip repair, is what we're going to get to this year.
Was that done? Was that the design method of doing that then, or was there an error in the way they constructed it? I know they changed.
I don't think it's a construction.
Okay.
Is the farthest street out to the west on this map Soncy?
Yes.
Okay.
What is the light yellow? Not the mustard, but the light yellow, specifically 9th Street.
That's 9th Street up there to State Road.
Oh, that goes along, well, that's from Old 66 to on up to Coulter. That's State Road.
There's a lot more state roads in there.
Because that's a bumpy son of a gun, too.
Yes, sir.
There was a guy that was in a class that I was in that said, if you want to have up your knees, he says, have a severe heart attack and ride in the back of an ambulance when they're trying to insert an IV and you're going down 9th Street.
No thanks. You've done those things I want to do.
Yeah.
I'll take the word for it.
So the greens are the ones that are going to be overlaid.
The greens are the overlay, and when that orangish, yellowish mustard, whatever that is Rigger reconstructs.
Can you give us a written list of these just to keep as we're talking to people?
I can.
People are
Yeah.
really curious about this.
But, and they should be.
Especially after what y'all were talking about, the state highways.
Wow, I heard a lot of people complaining about that.
Yes.
Oh, it was anybody
They
with
think
that.
it's a city.
There was no way out.
It's a highway.
No,
Once you got in there, you'd sunk. And sunk is about what you were.
but I did listen to it, but if you drove slow, it was okay.
Yeah, but
And that
everybody else
works
is
until that
passing
guy
at
decides
50s.
to go by at 50.
Everybody, yeah, and throwing rocks.
It's like being behind a
Over here on the
motorcycle.
east side of town, not
I was trying to go into
green,
the lake.
the
Figured
furthest
I could just dive in the lake.
green on top of the red line. Is that Grand?
This, yes, this is Grand.
That's Grand, okay, and the other one is
That's Eastern.
Eastern, okay. And then the rest of it's 34th going down, that one going
This
down.
is Ross Osage,
Rose Osage, okay.
34th,
34th,
Arthur.
thank you very much,
I was at a
amen.
meeting recently, and I got an email from two pretty well outspoken people in the city that couldn't believe how well we'd done on Bell fixing that street.
Good.
They said it was just unbelievable how smooth it is and how nice it
As
is.
a former resident of that area, I agree.
Yeah, that looks
That was a long time coming. Jim and Brian would recall that we did several utility projects
some water
over the course of
relations.
years because of some failures in some old mains, which we fixed that well, but the process of doing that wasn't so easy for the street. It's in good shape now.
Okay.
Well, thank you for that information, that will be very
Yeah,
helpful.
while you're getting the next thing, one more question. Can you do an overlay after you've done seal cut? Can you put an overlay on top of the seal cut? Or do you have to do a road mill project first?
You wouldn't overlay on top of a seal coat. If you were going to, if you needed an overlay, a seal coat wouldn't have done the job. You'd have to mill it off anyway, so.
Overlay by design mills off an inch and a half of what's on top, inch and a quarter to inch and a half.
Yeah, sometimes a little more on the edges to be sure the flow gets back in the curves.
Okay.
And you grind it up and use it in alleys,
We use it in a lot of places.
other places.
We use it in a lot of places. We store it,
Okay.
call that wrap.
Okay.
We have a big stockpile of that up on the north side, one of the old landfills. Okay, thank you. I apologize for the delay, but
That's
that will do
good
the
news.
agenda.
Oh,
That's good news. Taxes are, revenues increasing.
Yeah, the-
Sales taxes.
Revenue from shelter.
Item number 1, minutes. Questions, comments, speak now, forever hold your peace. Item number 2, ordinance 7299. This is the ordinance for a rezone, multifamily District 1 to the same with specific use permit for a type A manufactured home. Mr. Shaw, any changes, questions, comments, items out of the ordinary?
None other than to say that this is really in an area that is considerably economically distressed, I guess I would say. And there are several properties that are actually just vacant. And I think any use or reuse of some of the property over there would be a good thing. The applicant's certified real estate appraisal indicates that there would be no adverse effects on any of the surrounding properties.
Be just the opposite, probably.
And this is actually a pretty decent manufactured home, and it's going into an area where it will definitely be one of the better home sites in the area. Planning and Zoning Commission thought it was very appropriate and recommended approval unanimously. Haven't received any negative phone calls.
Is type A single wide?
I'm sorry?
Type A, is that single wide?
It could be either.
It's
Your
based on
model.
age. Your
Yes.
model.
Right.
Oh,
Okay, item number 3, this is to put a carport within the front yard setback requirements. This is up off of North Graham Street. This area, we've actually had 3 or so over the last 4 or 5 years.
Yeah, there have been some specific use permits granted in this area for carports. Again, they to obtain a specific use permit, they have to submit materials, site plans, so forth. What we really as staff look for is how is it going to affect the streetscape of that particular block in the neighborhood. In this particular area, as we see in a lot of these older areas, they're either one-car garage homes or no-car garage homes where they've remodeled it into another bedroom. And also in this area, as far as the streetscape goes, several mature trees, lots of chain link fences, and this particular carport would actually, it's still 12 feet behind the property line, but it's actually about 24 feet behind the curb line. So it's set back quite a ways, and if you were just going up and down the street, you really wouldn't notice it until you're up on it. Really, the situation in this neighborhood is there are several carports that are up that don't have specific use permits, and the inspector just happened to drive by this one while it was being constructed. So even though there are several carports in the area, that does not mean that they're all legal. This one is coming before you for approval, but we are in the process of investigating some of the other ones around there. But this one would be legal if you approved it today.
Can the others get approved?
Yes.
They can seek approval.
Yeah, they could seek approval.
Or you
through
tell
the
them
same
to take them
process.
down again.
They won't get approved.
Okay.
This seems to be one of those seasonal deals. We'll go quite a while and not see a carport, and we'll have quite a few come up.
Can we get them to trade in this errant street sign for their carport?
What street sign?
Spot zoning.
Oh, that'd be nice. I'll vote for that. Except that's not on their property. Is it? Yeah,
Likely
it
is.
Anyway, just saying.
On Sammy's.
Yeah.
I'll get an axe off.
Mayor, we could move to the consent agenda if there's no further questions on item 3.
Okay.
I want to thank Mr. Pingo for putting together this wonderful and brief agenda in my absence last week. That's 2 in a row. Vicki did the first one very brief. Dean has continued the tradition, so I may need to take off every Thursday and Friday or something.
Vicki's
Well,
was
Darwin
beyond-
Francis did it. I can't claim it.
I think we need to get last week's and this week's, put them side by side and have a little contest.
Vicki's is short.
Vicki was
2
not
minutes and
existent.
52 seconds.
Just don't use mine from the week preceding that as the benchmark. I'll really come out on the wrong end of that one. Item A, automotive batteries.
Just so you know, if you took that by the $10 a week that we get by the minute, that's $129 a minute is what we got, actually.
Mr. Frigo, I thought more of your
Which computes
financial
to
abilities than that.
$40,000 a year.
Kind of like a
If we
county
really
commission.
do that. Really don't.
Almost.
I had to figure that out.
I don't get any money, so it's what's 0 times.
But you missed.
I know.
You missed $40,000 a
Mine
year.
goes, you know.
And we digress.
Okay. That's-
But it's the mayor digressing. So
I understand.
Item A, automotive batteries, annual contract. I think somebody a minute ago said something about Battery Joe. They are the low bidder this year. Significant price increase. Dean and the group checked on that, and I think they said the primary cause was the increase in the price of lead. Still think it's a significant increase, but nonetheless, we don't start up in the morning and leave the yard to go do our work without this. So,
And we did get several bids.
Item B, water main extension and replacement projects. Another utility contracts, low responsive bidder. These both being 6-inch mains. Again, part of your ongoing process we do every year, working in areas where we've got consistently low pressure, big history of line breaks, all of Bell Street. Water quality issues often caused by either the deterioration in the pipe or because you have a dead-end line or the water's not flowing on through it. You'll see this throughout the winter when we bring in these in. You'll have your 2-inch main projects coming up. We'll just keep working our way through. Parts of the city are much older than I think sometimes we'll give them credit for being. Tim, can you speak to that?
I couldn't hear you.
Did I see Tim back there?
Robert's proposals on
I think they just found these out.
Oh, looks like, as they did a couple of weeks ago, it's in their trench safety. They bid 3,000 a linear foot, and I think they probably meant 3,000 lump sum. We do not correct bids.
Is that the same company?
Uh-huh.
You understand when you
The
get
bids were probably submitted as Item C, Pantex Agreement and Transport 8IP grant. I know some of you all saw a little bit of the results of this when we had our Pantex exercise here the other day, but this is funding straight to us, specifically for our coordination, response, and planning efforts as it relates to something that might happen in Pantex. It's a 5-year grant, but they only fund a period of time. It gives them wiggle room. Item D is Emergency Management Performance Grant. This is money coming to us actually from the DPS, which is the Governor's Division of Emergency Management, is under them. We use this money for our emergency management group to conduct our exercises. Of course, in that case, R is not only us, but Conner and Middle Cannons as well. Do our training, planning, and our public outreach. Little calendars, and when we're able to do the little radio giveaways, weather radio, all that comes through here. Next item, we can't let Fire Chief go without having him spend some money. Item here today is the bunker gear, the actual protective clothing that the firefighters wear. 12.5% increase from last year, $142,650. Very necessary items. And then one aviation cruise on. Mayor, if we could, we have a couple of items we'd like to go over with you in closed session today. Do this and not have to bring anybody back.